What I've got the picture there on the thumbnail of the Mary Jane Watson from the Spider-Man video games, and I talked a little bit about that a couple weeks ago when I did a live stream. You know, the problem of her in that game. As cool as that game is, amazing as that game was, she's just such a blight upon it. Its handling of her and whatnot. Over the last week, when Sound Engraver was off visiting her sister and everything, and I was just left desolate without my Sound Engraver, one of the things I did in my downtime was to finally get around to watching Daredevil season three. I know, it's been out for ages. What the heck is your problem, Prof? Why did you wait so long? Honestly, the reason was, if you remember, by the time Daredevil season three was even released, it was already common. Now they'd already released that they were not continuing the Netflix universe at all. They canceled Luke Cage after ending season two on a horrible cliffhanger, just a horrid cliffhanger. Is riddled with issues that Iron Fist two season two was. That was it was a really crappy season in a lot of ways. They did at least end on a cliffhanger that you kind of wanted to know what was going on, and then they just canceled that. You'll never get another Defenders or anything like that. But they did had already filmed Daredevil season three, which they said really did complete his arc. So I love the fact that, at least because I dearly love the character Daredevil. He's a Catholic like I am. He's a wonderful cathartic motivational hero. I gravitate toward him more than I do somebody like Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man too, but Spider-Man's like the go-to for a lot of people when it comes to cathartic motivational heroes. For me, it's Daredevil. Really is just a phenomenal character in the comics and whatnot. And I love the first two seasons and his participation in the Defenders, in terms of the Netflix show. So I really wanted to watch season three, but it was going to be like, after watching it, that's it. I wasn't going to get any new good Daredevil content. And anyway, I finally watched it. That's why it took so long to watch it. And it's good. I like season three. I did. I like the things happen, but it's not perfect. There were some issues. Um, One of the issues, for example, is, maybe some of you will share this critique, is that the ending, the last episode, I like what happened. I like how he overcomes Fisk in the end. I like the reasoning for it. I like how it plays out, but it's rushed. It's way too rushed. The space between the next to last episode and the last episode, everything kicks into high gear, and the pacing is just ridiculous. It suddenly just, it doesn't quite feel right. The reason the pacing is a problem is because of another problem with season three, and this is the phenomena I'm seeing in a lot of hero stories now, is the love interest. The love interest in hero stories, the female, the femme fatale, not femme fatale, sometimes not femme fatale, but damsel in distress. The love interest of the hero, the woman love interest of the male superhero, is grossly developed, far too developed. They're taking her beyond her role as love interest and trying to make her basically another main character of the story. Uh, we got an entire episode of that Daredevil season, which just basically told us Karen Page's backstory. We didn't need that at all. In fact, everything it had pretty much told us, we kind of knew from flashbacks, or her talking about it in previous seasons and whatever. That's why the pacing was such an issue, and then they were off in trying to develop it into the last climax episode of the season. And the reason this need to develop the love interest and try to make her so three-dimensional, and really give her a good strong story arc too, and make her kind of one of the main characters too, is because of this feminist agenda again, where, oh, we can't have her just be this woman can't just be there in service of the hero. She can't just be a love interest. That's horrible. That's sexist. We've got to give her all of these dimensions and layers, and we've got to make her do a lot of hero work too. She has to be just as strong and capable as the hero, and we've got to really go into her character in depth. That's garbage. There's nothing sexist about a love interest just being a love interest. Every non-main character in a superhero story is there to serve the main hero in terms of the story logic and whatnot. Doesn't mean that they can't have cool story arcs of their own. They, sort of like B-level plots and whatnot. They should, and they should reflect the main hero's story. Lois Lane is just Lois Lane. She's Superman's love interest. Great character of her own, absolutely. But really, Lois Lane couldn't carry a title on her own. Uh, there have been certain like little mini series or like just or some issues or whatever that to follow her or whatever, but they're contained, right? No one's ever thinking that this is going to be a thing now. But what are they trying to do now? What is the nonsense lady who's behind the Shira? She's doing a Lois Lane centric cartoon because that's what we need. That's what the kids want. Ridiculous. And the Spider-Man show, the Spider-Man video game is an ideal example of this. Nobody, and I mean nobody, who's a real Spider-Man fan picks up that Spider-Man game saying, I hope we can play as Mary Jane. First of all, it's not even Mary Jane Watson that you get. It's a rip-off Lois Lane version of Mary Jane Watson, who's so light years away from ever being a model or anything like that. Oh, that's so problematic. No, she's strong, she's independent, she's fierce, she's a reporter, and she's investigative, and she's all these kinds of things. In the course of the gameplay, how dare Peter think something is too dangerous for her to do? How dare, that's so sexist and misogynist of you, Peter, to dare say that I shouldn't go infiltrate that street gang's lair and look into things because I don't have superpowers. No, it's actually very smart, you idiot. And then the video game makes you play as Mary Jane sneaking into this warehouse or whatever. Mary Jane Watson has no flipping business whatsoever doing any of that. And people might say, well, Lois Lane does it. Yeah, Lois Lane does it, and then always needs to be rescued because of it. That's part of that story. That's the classic damsel in distress Lois Lane story. She's not helpless. She's full of strength and all of that, but she can't do it without Superman at all. And in the modern movement for love interest and superhero stories, it's not enough. It's not enough that they demand uh, female superhero stories just as much and just as as whatever is the male superhero stories. But now they're even trying to let the love interests in superhero stories subsume the superhero. It's ridiculous. Mary Jane's not a hero. She's a love interest. She has no business going in and doing the hero work. And it's horrible. Like Peter is really kind of cucked in that game a bit too. I'm sorry to people who really love the game because I like the game too. I really like the gameplay. It's glorious just to feel like you're Spider-Man swinging through the city. It's wonderful. Peter's cucked pretty hard at the end of this game. In the colloquial version of that phrase, because she basically makes him admit that we are partners and I'm just as much of a hero as you are, and don't you dare tell me I can't go and investigate this super villain and whatnot. I can do whatever. No, you can't. You're a civilian with no powers whatsoever. You've got no business doing it. Period. And that's not sexist. That's just logic, you know. But Daredevil did a little bit of this with Karen Page, not to the level of where it ruined the series or anything, but you can see that the same phenomena, the same need to develop the love interest beyond their restraints of what they should be. You could see that in season 3 as well. Lois Lane, they're doing it now with the cartoon and everything. And it's just another example of how there's no receiving a good story today, even from, hey, Tila, Masters of the Universe, Revelations. That's exactly what it did, right? Well, and people will say, what's wrong? What, can't we have a good Tila story? Can't we have a good Lois? There have been great stories, like an episode that was Tila centric, or this little run that followed Lois Lane or something like that. What's wrong with that? Here's what's wrong with it. Any example you point to in which that happened and it was a good thing, it was in addition to the main character stories already being there. If the Superman run is already dealing with Superman in iconic fashion, then yeah, you can take a few issues and explore a little Lois Lane kind of thing or whatever. You can take an episode of He-Man and explore Tila, and hey, she's got a lot to add. Her own character has a lot to add to the mythos. That's great, but only in relation to He-Man. I do not care about an Eternia in which He-Man's not there, but Tila's there. That's ridiculous. And it's absurd that Kevin Smith thought he could ask us to care about that. It's absurd that the Twitter mobs try to paint you sexist if you don't care about that. No, it's absurd. She's not the draw of the universe. It's He-Man. It's He-Man. I don't want to see a Karen Page series. Karen Page is only interesting to me through her relationship to Matt Murdock, through Daredevil. But we're seeing this over and over now. It's not enough. Like I said, it's not enough that we get these garbage movies like Captain Marvel or X-Men with what's her name, trying to lecture Professor X, and why is he called X-Men? This is so sexist, blah blah blah. It's not enough that we need, to shove poorly constructed female heroes down our throat, but now they're even going into the stories which are just the male superhero stories and trying to overdevelop the love interests into characters that subsume them. Take away story time from their arcs that need to be more developed and fleshed out. And yeah, I mean, the Spider-Man video game will go down in history, I think. It's just such a ridiculous, because they've got you as a game player. They've got you. They know that you're going to come play this game because of the wonderful treatment it gives Spider-Man and the mechanics, and it's just so fun. And then when they make you play as Mary Jane, it's such a slap in the face. It is such a slap in the face. Same thing with Miles Morales. This is before he even had his powers in the game. I have no interest in playing as a civilian kid trying to sneak around a gang controlled. No, it's not his story. It's Peter's story. Leave it alone. I haven't played the Miles Morales game or anything. I don't know how that story is, and I know some people are excited about the sequel with both of them. I've done a whole stream about that. It could have some good things, but no, the way that the industry's going, it's get ready, get ready. So yeah, we just there's no receiving good stories today, and there's no receiving good portrayals of superhero male super. The masculinity is toxic on every level, and it will not. This is their treatment of it, right? They could not fathom doing a show like He-Man. I mean, you really should have seen it coming, that He-Man would of course be killed off and it'd be Teela's story, because that's what the industry's doing right now. They're not going to give you a show about a character named He-Man. Even the Netflix, I forget the specific name of that other Netflix animated series of He-Man or whatever. He's got a team around him, and he's not really the main guy. He's just one of a team. So we need good. We need good masculine energy. We need good masculine heroes again, and you can get those from independent creators. And then within that, we need the whole spectrum. We need the we need to continue to get the brutal heroes. We need punishers and anti-heroes and stuff like that. But as I've always, been preaching on this channel, we can't forget the aspirational. We still need those in place so that any of the other ones can make sense. But it's getting to the point where you just, point out a true, unapologetically masculine hero story that's still being created today. I don't know if you can. I don't think you can. In terms of from the major companies, production companies, publications, publishers, or anything like that. Just not there. Just not there. So Horizon Talker says we saw this. We even saw this with Black Widow. Her movie was a bait and switch to give you a less feminine femme fatale character who was totes okay with being sterile. I'll take a hard pass. Exactly. Yeah, everything that Black Widow film did to her character, I read about it. I refused to see it because I knew it was going to be like this. I mean, the writer came out and told you that she doesn't even care about the character. She just said yes so that she can preach her ideology. She came out and said that, long before the movie even came out. But yeah, everything that movie did with Black Widow was just trying to apologize for her ever being a femme fatale, for her ever being, worried about her sterility or anything. Like, we can't. Motherhood, that's so passe. Women should go beyond their capacity as mothers. Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous.